Hi, this is Connor. Before the episode starts, I wanted to let you know that there are God of War spoilers early on. The timestamps for the start and end times of the spoilers are in the description.
And welcome into the Gaming Discourse. I'm Tyler Frater alongside Richard A. the Cruz.
Hello.
And Chief Engineer, Lieutenant Commander Connor Frater.
Hello.
It is Monday, December 5th, 2022. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse. Patreon.com/The Gaming Discourse, where you can support us for $2, $4, $7, or $10. You can get your name in the credits, early access to videos, access to our Discord server, other fun stuff, so check that out. Last week, I said we had videos coming, and we still do. It's going to be a few more days, but hopefully, I think it's tough to tell. I think by the end of this week, we'll definitely have the project that you and I, Richard, have been working on for a while.
Yeah, I think it'll be good to go.
I think we'll be good to go there. And then I'll have my next video maybe by the end of the week, but probably early next week. We'll have to see. So that's the status on those. Not a ton of news this week. I think it's sort of the calm before the Game Awards storm. But there is some stuff with Nintendo and their mobile games. There's some big movement on the labor front, which is a sentence that sounds like I'm talking about British politics, but I'm not. I'm talking about the unionization movement in the games industry. But yeah, let's get into the games we've been playing. I've been playing too. Connor, have you?
I have not. It's been
Connor has been playing. Connor's been playing Victoria Zero games. Richard, how about you?
Just God of War.
Just God of War.
Just a little more, yeah, not too.
Connor just
Much
stared. Just stared.
I mean, I did play a little bit of God of War, but that, I completely forgot about that because it was earlier today.
You usually play Victoria 3, but you played Victoria 0 because you played 0 games. That's it. So, God of War.
Yeah.
Connor, do you have any thoughts on God of War?
Nothing I can think of right now.
Okay. You've gotten farther than I assume.
Yeah, just a bit farther, and then we can put a spoiler tag here, but if we want. But I am now in Asgard.
Okay.
I'm in Asgard. I did the first quote unquote mission for Odin.
Mm-hmm.
I love Thor.
Oh my god.
I love Thor so much. I love Odin so much.
Yeah.
And I love another thing is something that's obvious and it's done in other media, but I don't know why it tinges my brain here. But of course, no one calls him Odin, Allfather.
Allfather.
He calls him Allfather. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a neat thing. I hate I can't wait. I know I'm gonna fight him. I hate the shit out of Heimdall, dude.
Yeah, he's cocky as hell.
Get fucked. I hate that guy. And I can't wait. But I saw an argument. I'm going to back up and say this. I am very, very stunned by how much wildlife is in God of War. That's something that I've been trying to like.
Oh, I think there's a reason for that. I'm going to hold it in my head. Keep going.
Oh, man. Anyways, that's something I've been trying to remember to talk about when I talk about God of War is how much unique wildlife that there is in the game that's just kind of in backdrops. And it's very, very cool to see. Especially, and it was annoying at first, actually, because I thought they were used for something. Because there's areas where you come across a lot of spiders and a lot of like bugs and stuff that are lit up brightly,
bioluminescent,
and they look like I need to like hit those or something to get. No, they're just flare.
Sure,
which is great. Of course, when you go to places like Alfheim and Vanaheim, just Vanaheim. There's deer-esque creatures and monkey type creatures, which are really, really cool. They just kind of jump around and they're just living, and it's really, really awesome to see. So I love how much of that is in there. I'm having a blast finding stuff that I don't want to say I shouldn't find already, but I've already encountered some boss fights that I probably should be a little stronger for, but I've done it. So I kind of get an upper hand as far as like crafting equipment that I need to get for later, or just extra bonus attachments to my I forgot what they're called,
the amulet.
Yeah, the amulet. Yeah, and stuff like that. So which I still don't even know how to. I very much am in the first God of War, I was very much in tune with the combo system, very much did a lot of really neat things. I still am having trouble doing that in Ragnarok.
I was right there with you, but eventually I settled myself in.
Yeah.
Kind of like sitting down in a beanie bag chair, just like slowly but surely kind of finding like your groove.
Yeah, my tried and true combos still work. Like they're, I can still get through battles with them, so I don't have a problem doing that continuously. But I continue to love where the story is going. I'm sorry, I'm just past Asgard. Atreus is in Asgard. I am now hunting down the fates of this world as Kratos. Yeah. So that's very awesome, especially hearing more backstory with Freya and more back and forth between her and Mimir and Kratos. It's really, really lovely. All of it. But yeah.
So I'm glad you brought up the wildlife, because I have forgotten to bring that up, because it's amazing. And I think it emphasizes a few things. One, it is really cool just seeing all the different animals and the different forms of life, and they only exist in certain biomes. Mm-hmm. There's these like hermit crab things in not Helheim, Muspelheim, right?
Right.
That live. I don't know if you've seen them, but they live sort of right outside the. It sort of implies that they're just crabs that live under lava or something weird, like lava crabs or something. Yeah, there's deer in Vanaheim. There are, if you go to, I forget how to pronounce the dwarven home, Svartalheim. You'll see like the different fish and stuff like that hop out of the water, and it's all. I don't think I've seen an animal like a big animal, in more than one biome. The bugs are everywhere, but like other than that, but I think that's part of a theme though, because God of War is about change. That's vague, but it's about like, can people change? Can you become good? Can you be evil and become good? Kratos has changed. What goes into that? What happens when a person actually change? Can a person actually change? Right? A couple characters, including Thor, have taunted Kratos about, show me the real God of War, and that's something that Kratos kind of wants to leave in the past, right? And that's something that he struggles with. So a lot of it is about change. What else is changing in the realms? Well, Ragnarok has begun. Yeah. And with Ragnarok has come massive changes in weather. And I'm going to say two words that people don't like, but it's climate change. And characters explicitly say in these biomes that it affects the biome differently. And I think another purpose to those animals is you realize that these places are they're ecosystems. They're not just home to Draugr that you swing your axe at and kill. Yeah. And they're not just home to the Vanir are from Vanaheim, or Freyr and Freya are from, but there's also all kinds of life forms there as well, like the monkeys and the deer and stuff. And so I think it gives you a sense of how much bigger these realms and worlds are that these characters are moving through and fighting through. And also I think it's a metaphor, because the changes in climate change the behaviors of the organisms living in those environments. And even like at one point, I think it was Svartalheim. No, it was Vanaheim. Have you been to Vanaheim yet?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. You fight these wolf things, right?
Yeah, the deer wolf.
Yeah, they're like, and a character says these wolves are not usually this aggressive, and they attribute it to the changes in the ecosystem, right? So again, that's implying that Ragnarok has not just made living conditions harsher, but has pushed organisms to act in ways that they usually don't act, right? So it's not just making places uninhabitable, it's forcing organisms to live differently. It's changing things that way too. So I think that whole narrative is just phenomenal. It's great. Yeah. I have settled into the combat. You'll figure out the amulet So I'm not sure if you've seen how it works, but basically if you have 3 matching like gems from a realm, you get, so if a gem has, let's say Midgard, right? If there's a gem from Midgard, it gives you 5 strength. You slot it onto the amulet, it gives Kratos 5 strength, right? Mm-hmm. If you have 2 others, say they also have 5 strength, so 5, 10, 15, you get 15 strength when those are slotted in. But also, if you have 3 matching, you get a bonus, yeah. Right? But that's what you have to find, because it takes a bit to find 3 of them and unlock 3 slots. Also, there are one-of-a-kind gems that you can find. I found a gem that makes Kratos's dodge and roll faster, so he covers more ground a little bit more quickly. Okay. Not like a super-duper dash.
Sure, but
I something faster that definitely changes the pace a little bit. So there's things like that, and I'm not sure what else there is. But, yeah, I've settled into the combat and sort of figured out how better to attack things, how better to work with the weapons, because the weapons have like 18,000 new ways to use them. You not only have your runic attacks, which is the heavy and a light runic attack that are like special moves. You also have elemental buildup, where like if you get enough hits with the axe becomes ice, and then once the axe freezes, then there's an additional moveset you have with it that you can do with it. Same thing with the blades. You swing the blades and they hit enough enemies without Kratos getting hit. You unlock a couple new like abilities, or you do more damage with them and set enemies on fire more quickly. And also there's if you hit both the bumpers at the same time, the axe and the blades have a special move once that gauge is filled up all the way. So that special gauge, I think you can even change exactly what happens in the level up menu. And that's great. So it's amazing because you have both of those weapons from the start of the game, but combat does not feel repetitive. Because I'm constantly unlocking new moves, constantly getting better at working more complicated combos into the combat. And I think that's a sign of a game that really, it feels like the first God of War, but it also feels different because of just because of how you're using your weapons and stuff like that. So they just did a phenomenal job with keeping the combat fresh, but keeping it different. One thing I would compare it to was what Halo did for a really long time between Halo 1, 2, 3. It was like the differences between Halo 2 and Halo 3 were pretty different. But it still felt like Halo. There was that sort of hard, ill-defined feeling, what it was, right? Yeah. And I think God of War is much the similar way. The other game that I want to talk about is Silent Hill 2. So I came to the store the other day. You let me borrow a copy, a PS2, never before opened copy of Silent Hill 2. And I said, Richard, I'm going to take this home. I'm going to open it up. Mm-hmm. I'm going to scratch the disc, tear up the box, and then I'll return it to you. Yeah. So I borrowed that copy, and then I got an emulated copy on my Steam Deck. No. Well, you brought it over, and you're like, I don't know how this happened. I was, I knew what you did, but I had to pretend like I didn't and do the return anyways. Sure. Yeah. Silent Hill 2 is really good. It is stunningly good. It's creepy, spoiler alert, but it's also I don't know. So part of it is some of the dialogue is cheesy,
of course,
but at the same time, I wonder how much of it is supposed to be that way.
Some people argue that
because James kind of seems like he's in a dream and he doesn't realize it. But I don't know how much of that is not bad writing, but just like early 2000s video game writing versus on purpose trying to show a character that isn't completely conscious or self-aware of what's going on. And clearly the game is not telling, Silent Hill 2 thus far does not tell like it is more David Lynch than it is like I don't know, something very straightforward. Because he meets weird character, like there's a little girl running around Silent Hill. And it's just like, okay, how is she surviving? And the point is that it's not that she's surviving. The point is, what is she? What does she represent? What is she in relation to James. There's another character. I think his name is Kevin. I don't remember.
That's the guy with the hat, right?
The hat, and you find him puking in a toilet, it's in the middle of this monster-infested apartment building.
Yeah.
And you find him puking in a toilet, and it's kind of creepy, but kind of funny at the same time. Later on, you find him in a bowling alley, and he's like chomping away at pizza, and he seems completely unaware of what's going on. You meet Maria, who is like this weird seductress, and I think she sort of represents something to James. I'm sure there are forums and forums of people that have figured this out in the past 20 years or so. But I think the storytelling is really interesting. The way the game handles Pyramid Head. I don't know if this was the first time a game did something like this, but there have been a number of horror games that handled like a central villain in the way that Silent Hill 2 handles Pyramid Head, where you have this villain, this reoccurring villain that and it becomes sort of a rivalry, where at first it's kind of scary, but after that you're like, man, I'm gonna fucking you just hate the guy, right? And the way it introduces Pyramid Head is it's really subdued. And once Pyramid Head, besides the first time, the first boss fight with Pyramid Head, which is a really creepy cutscene when you first enter that room, he has a few creepy cutscenes. The other times you encounter Pyramid Head, it just happens.
Yes.
You mentioned the other day how silent the game is, and it's
a namesake.
But it's so impactful, that silence. They do it so well.
You only hear your footsteps, especially in hallways, the reverberating of the...
But it's impactful. It doesn't feel empty. It feels contemplative. It feels abandoned. It's just really well done. It's really blended with the surroundings really well. But Pyramid Head, I just love how you'll turn a corner and it's just, oh, he's there. There's no crazy cutscene. There's no loud jump scare. It's just, oh, you got to deal with this now. Here's Pyramid Head. Figure it out. It's really subdued, and I think that kind of adds to the overall just creepiness atmosphere because when you never really know what to expect then, because if villains are introduced in that subdued way, it could literally be at any moment because there is no sign that something super creepy is about to happen. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. I just got to a pretty big moment. Maria died. Spoiler alert. And now
what?
I know. James is and I'm not even sure if she actually died or what, because again, the whole thing, everything that's going on is so strange.
Right.
But now the game it's playing some sad music, so it's a bit of a cool down moment. But
there a giant peach anywhere?
I haven't seen one yet.
Okay.
But one moment where I was like, man, this game is cool, is I was following the map and I wasn't sure where to go. And one of my guesses was to follow a road way down out of town. I was like, I guess I got to go this way. So I'm walking through this street, and all it is just a street, and I can see 10 feet in front of me surrounded by fog. And I'm like, okay, so what am I walking into here? And you just keep walking. And you just keep walking. And you just keep walking. And there are fences on either side of this highway. And all of a sudden, there'll just be a monster that just is almost like out of a catapult, shot over the fence and just lands in front of you and starts to get up. So okay, I guess I'll fight this guy. Fight that guy. That guy dies. Okay, keep going. And there's another one. And after a while, it's okay, every couple steps, there's another monster. Mm-hmm. So now it's I just have to... So what ended up happening to me is I'm just sprinting down this highway toward God knows what, and I'm just watching monsters get launched from either side of the highway. And again, no music, just you just hear the monster growl and it lands in front of you, and I have no choice but to just keep running straight because I think that's the way I have to go. And you get down there and that's not the way you're supposed to go, but it knows people will do that because there's an item you can pick up there or a memo that says something. So I had to turn back around. Monsters aren't super difficult to run away. They don't have ranged attacks or anything.
Yeah, they're very slow as well.
But still, just that just pushing myself down that highway and then pushing myself back down the highway, just running past these monsters is really well done. Really cool.
There is they remade the first game.
Okay.
It was like a reimagining. It wasn't like a remake. It was a reimagining called Silent Hill Shattered Memories on the PS2 and the PSP. And that one you might dig because that one you can't fight anything.
Oh,
like
interesting.
You specifically like cannot fight whatsoever. Have your flashlight and like other small things too.
Cool.
But at first it wasn't like well received, but nowadays it's generally considered like actually quite good.
Huh. Okay. Interesting.
One day, maybe.
Yeah, I may have to try that out.
You want to spend like $250?
Yes, I will.
Yeah, sure.
I'll do it the legal way.
I'll do the damn return.
Are we ready for the news? Hit the ad. Thanks for listening. If you like our content, please consider subscribing or leaving a like and comment. You can find us at patreon.com/thegamingdiscourse. And our tiers are $2, $4, $7, and $10 and include getting your name in the video credits, early access, and access to our Discord server.
Nintendo sees mobile as more of a marketing platform than a revenue platform. As reported by Axios, Dragalia Lost, a mobile game co-developed by Nintendo, was shut down last week and became unplayable. There's been no word as why the game was shut down, but players did have a warning beforehand. Nintendo has told Axios, quote, "While we feel the importance of generating revenue and profit through our mobile business, our basic strategy with the business is to expand the number of people who have access to Nintendo IPs and allow people to experience the new entertainment from Nintendo and get familiar with its own IPs."
Yeah, again, preservation. We talked about this last week. Whatever you think of mobile gaming, whatever you think of the market, whatever, it's a game and it deserves to be preserved. And
Yep.
I find it hard to believe that the cost of keeping a game on a storefront is a major drain on resources. I don't know. I can't speak with authority on that, but it just seems like I don't know, when you look, okay, I don't want to speak out of turn. Like when you think of all the games that are on all the storefronts all over the ecosystem of video games, there are games you can find on Steam that have 0 players. Right. Blood and Gold, that Western from 2011.
Lead and Gold.
You can still purchase that. So it's like, what? There is no such thing as a free lunch. So what's the cost, and where is that cost coming from to keep that game on that storefront? Yeah. I don't know. That's complicated. But
especially if you look at the comparisons between actual console games and mobile games, arguably up until about, I don't want to say 5 years ago. I feel like it's a little longer. Before free to play really took off, Fortnite and
sure.
There were games that stayed on for years, just online, just for whatever reason. Like barely this year, EA is finally shutting down servers to all these games that have been out before the 2010s. Those were able to stay up with their online components. Of course, I'm not an engineer or whatever. I have no idea why. But for a game that is arguably smaller, way smaller in size, for the mobile market that at least has some sort of continuous revenue, it is strange that it can't stay open.
Yeah. And it's weird that they didn't
or at least find shortcuts to maybe make the hurt a little less.
Yeah, and they didn't give explicit reasons as to why. Well, I was gonna say, yeah, I did not see in the story if it will remain. It said the unplayable. Axios reported as unplayable. So I don't know if this is the same situation of Square Enix Montreal, which became, I forget, Onoma, where their games weren't only taken off the storefronts, but were actually becoming like unplayable for people that even purchase them. I'm assuming this is the same thing here, where obviously if it's going to be unplayable, that means it's going to be unpurchasable, you would assume. So yeah, but yeah, I'm in the same boat. And I think it's just important I know we're repeating ourselves from last week, but preservation is preservation. And I feel like there's, the Mr. Incredible meme, and there's got to be a way for these companies to do this better. I think it's similar to, I think it's similar to something like Google Stadia, where if a company has the resources to handle something better, we shouldn't give them credit for doing half of that. Does that make sense? I feel like Nintendo, I think it's reasonable to speculate that Nintendo has the resources to do something other than just take a game and have it disappear from the face of the earth.
More like Nintendo don't.
Hey, what are you, Sega in the 90s? Hey!
I can tell you exactly why the game was shut down.
Why was that?
Jumping off of what Microsoft said last week or week before, because it's absolutely integral for Nintendo to have a mobile component in their AAA studio. So obviously they're shutting down this game because they need it there.
Yeah, so let's talk about that because I found that interesting. As soon as I read this, we talk about each of the three pillars. I don't want to say pillars. Each of the three consoles, and Nintendo lives in their own world. PlayStation and Xbox right now are tripping over themselves trying to figure out what to do with mobile, right? And if you ask Phil Spencer, it's either they get king or Xboxes are canceled. It's the business, the entire Microsoft Windows is at stake. No Windows 12 for anybody if Microsoft doesn't get king.
Mm-hmm.
But over here in Nintendo, it's more about marketing, and maybe it's because maybe it's because Nintendo, they see themselves, maybe maybe it's something where it's like the Switch is already a mobile device. The Switch Lite is a
mobile device.
So why do we want to try and split off mobile? Because if somebody has a Switch and they have a phone and we're putting a game on a phone, we could put that on the Switch, and all we're doing is leading them to a different ecosystem where their purchases have to go through Apple or Google and not through them first, right? Mm-hmm. So that could be a thought process behind it.
I still am very much in the camp, probably because, how long I've been doing what I do, but Nintendo has a very specific viewpoint on how they see things. And for them, like cell phones or cell phone gaming is not in the stratosphere of what they want to focus on, which is family, like the family fun, like being together with your family. That's why the Wii, was very focused on family. Mm-hmm. The Wii U tried to be focused on family. The Switch, very focused on families. You look at all their ads, the whole family get together, play with the family. So they've always been that way. Even when they first released this game, which was their very first mobile venture, they didn't even seem like they wanted to do it, especially with the Mario game that they made, the Fire Emblem game that they made, and then the Mario Kart game they made. They never seemed to want to do any of it because they didn't see a reason to. The Fire Emblem has stayed around because, unfortunately, it makes a shitload of money. Not unfortunately, that's the hard truth. Like, it makes a shitload of money, so of course they're keeping it.
Sure.
Mario Kart, I think, makes money, but the original Mario game that they made, the Mario Run, Super Mario Run,
2016, I think.
They did hey, $5 and you own it. And then they found out that only so many people will pay $5 for that, and then they'll stop. So and then they I don't think they took it down. They stopped supporting it or whatnot. But I think it's just the specific way that Nintendo thinks, and all the old heads who are running the company who still have it driven into them that it is a family.
Sure, yeah.
So they want it to where everyone can have it accessed so they can be together. Mm-hmm. So
Nintendo may be the only company. It's like the University of Alabama. Nintendo is the only place on earth that doesn't care about mobile, and the University of Alabama is the only place you can win a championship without a quarterback, and that wasn't true.
That is extremely specific.
It is, but that's the point. Is Nintendo is in an extremely specific position in its market because I think other companies could do this. I don't believe that Microsoft is going to have to light all the computers in the world on fire if they don't get king. They may threaten that, but I don't think it's going to have to be a practicality to have the company survive if they don't do that. But so I don't know, maybe that's the point to make. Maybe it's Nintendo doesn't see the effort in doing that. Other companies do, even though they're sort of telling half-truths when they talk about, it's for the good of the business. They won't be able to stay afloat if they don't do that kind of move. Where Nintendo, they know they can stay afloat without mobile, so they're not going to play that game, and they're not going to, because then you have to make acquisitions, and the acquisition market's super hot right now, so why get into that? Why not just make $1 gajillion off of Breath of the Wild 2 and, call it a day? I think maybe I think we...
what was it? Breath of the Wild has sold, I think, over 10 million copies.
Connor's on the beat.
Connor, can you look that up for me?
Connor.
And I still am frequently sold out of that game.
27.79.
That's very wrong.
Really?
Yeah.
27.79 million copies.
That is a lot of copies of that game.
It is the fourth best Nintendo title.
I am still very frequently out of that game.
That's amazing to me. And that's
on Switch.
Right.
Not Nintendo.
Mario Kart's number one, right?
Mario Kart's gotta be.
Or is it
Mario
Minecraft?
Kart 8 Deluxe, then New Horizons, Ultimate, then or Smash Bros. Ultimate, and then Bros.
Yeah. And that's just, I assume that's just physical copies.
Yeah.
So digital copies, we have no idea.
For a game to sell that many and people still want it, ask me for it, and I still don't have copies. That's very good ratio.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's if you get a Nintendo Switch, that's the first thing you're thinking about.
Buy Nintendo.
I assume a huge portion of the populace, right?
You buy a Nintendo console for the Nintendo games.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is not a bad thing, but
of course not. We would never disparage Nintendo games on this podcast. We don't want bomb threats. Connor, you were...
I was just smiling because you guys were saying that, and I bought my Switch so I could play Pokemon.
Right.
Hell yeah, but
which isn't technically a Nintendo game.
You're a Victoria 3 guy.
That's very technically.
Yeah. Whatever. Okay, are we ready to move on?
Let's do it.
What's going on at Blizzard?
Blizzard Albany's quality assurance team finally got their votes counted to unionize.
Those bastards.
I know, how dare they?
Kidding.
This started back in October when Blizzard submitted a junction to stop it, saying that they needed, or that the entire Blizzard Albany company should vote to unionize. Activision Blizzard argued that for a while. The National Labor Board denied their argument in October, and there was one introduced in November. That one finally got denied, and they finally got their votes in, and they have decided to unionize. In a unanimous vote, I believe.
Yep.
Blizzard Albany has unionized. According to Amanda Deep, an associate test analyst at Albany, she said in a statement, "It took an unbelievable amount of work and perseverance to move this fight forward. With this victory, we're advocating for ourselves and each other because we care deeply about our work and the games we make. Organizing this empowered all of us to fight hard for the dignity and respect every worker deserves on the job. We can only hope that our win will continue to grow the labor movement at other video game studios across the country." And today, 300 quality assurance devs at ZeniMax announced they would organize with the Communications Worker of America.
Yeah, which is the union that Albany is filed under. So
is ZeniMax still a subsidiary of Bethesda?
Yes, and they're owned by Microsoft.
Oh, yeah,
so the angle here.
Oh, duh. Wait, what am I doing? Oh my God.
So the angle here is we're going to see what Microsoft does.
Yeah. Because
Microsoft has been really, hey man, yeah, you guys can unionize, man, and we'll buy you up in a couple months. You guys unionize, man, with what's going on at Activision Blizzard.
But they're also kind of doing this.
But they're also doing a little side eye. Yeah, exactly. And now we're going to see exactly what goes on, because Blizzard has been scorched earth. Blizzard has been, we want to stop this from happening. If people at Raven Software vote to unionize, it'll be dogs and cats raining from the sky, mass hysteria, right? That's what they've been arguing. And that's part of this. I don't know if it's necessarily an injunction or not, because from a legal perspective, I have no idea. But their argument was that everybody should have to vote, and those both times they argued that the NLRB rejected it outright. And I think they argued that for Raven Software as well, but I don't know for sure. But Blizzard's stopping at nothing to try and stop these things from happening. And again, I would tell Blizzard, if you really cared about your employees, you should have taken care of them over the past decade. So you care all of a sudden now when they start to unionize. Maybe you should have done that over the past decade instead of rushing to fix things when they decide to pick up the slack and fix things themselves. Mm-hmm. So I have zero sympathy there. But yeah, we're gonna. I really want to see follow-ups on what Microsoft does with that ZeniMax move, because if they start to act just like Blizzard, that'll be interesting, because that'll go against. It was a lot of PR puff, like we respect their rights, blah 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 blah. It'll go against that, and it would be interesting to see what Phil Spencer says, because Phil Spencer, I think, is the most well-liked video game executive on the planet right now. I don't think I know we joke about him a lot on the show with the Xbox and all that stuff, but I think sincerely, he's probably the most well-liked executive. He's probably someone, if someone brings up Yves Guillemot, everyone's like, oh, what a, douchebag. You bring up Phil Spencer and it's like, there's a level of positivity there. So if
Nintendo has a literal villain for theirs, Doug Bowser.
Yeah, and the labor stuff that's been going on at Nintendo, I don't know. So yeah, maybe that's not a competition we need to, debate or anything like that. But the point I was trying to get to here is Phil Spencer, face of Xbox. He does a lot of interviews. He talks a lot about a lot of the stuff that's going on. He toes the company line. We talked about his interview last week. But if Microsoft comes out swinging against this labor union deal, Phil Spencer's going to have some answering to do because of how often he answers questions and stuff like that. So now it's that persona of sort of the good guy Spencer that wants gamers to have games anywhere and wants the industry to do best, and Microsoft releasing their transparency reports and all that kind of stuff. That's going to come under fire if all of a sudden Microsoft is trying to hold up unionization, which you would expect because they're a giant company. But yeah.
Well, with Blizzard Albany unionizing, ZeniMax QA unionizing, and Microsoft not getting their precious mobile games that they want. I don't know if the $2 trillion giant Microsoft will be able to last much longer.
You think they're going to die?
Yep. Next year they're gone.
There's going to be an update for Windows that it's just the Sonic, dun, 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 dun. But instead of pressing start, it says no PC more Windows, and it just plays endlessly. Okay. Sorry.
No, I don't have anything to say other than the fact that, it'd be really funny if they ask him questions. If Phil Spencer screws up this unionization thing and then they ask him questions about it, he just goes, yeah, but have you seen this blazer? Xbox. There you go.
And he drags us right back in.
That's the one thing he has that all the other guys don't.
Sweet blazers.
I'm ready for tidbits.
A man discusses the news, but not like the big news, the little news. Little bit. This is the tidbits. We were just...
I like grunge, mister.
During the commercial break, we were discussing the fact that you guys have flannel. Well, I like grunge too. Okay, first of all, you just implied that I don't know anything about grunge. Do you remember what my favorite band is?
Temple of the Dog.
No, not Temple of the Dog.
Okay.
Favorite band is Foo Fighters.
Well, Foo Fighters aren't grunge.
Well, they're not grunge anymore.
But they came from grunge.
Yeah, but they're not grunge.
But, okay, and yes, they are grunge. Have you listened to their first album?
They're not.
That album was very grunge.
It's post-grunge.
No,
it's post-grunge hard rock.
Stop it. Get out of here. It's grunge.
I'm sorry.
It's post-grunge by virtue of the date it was released, not by the sound of the music. Richard, what's the tidbit?
The tidbit is that...
do you want to go?
I think Alice in Chains is kind of underrated, but whatever.
No, there's validity to that.
Yeah, they're definitely popping. Whatever. Hey, the Amnesia devs, Frictional, this is for you, buddy. Their next game is due out in March, and it is a sequel, right? Kind of sequel in the universe, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, they revealed Amnesia: The Bunker, which is going to be a new sandbox open world horror game. Very exciting news, especially since the Amnesia games are all very good for the most part. The Bunker equips players with high levels of freedom to impact gameplay, choosing their playstyle as they explore at will this semi-open world. The game apparently does not have hardly any scripted events, resulting in constant tension by way of a threat that's ever present.
Yep.
Press release from Frictional Games states, quote, Amnesia: The Bunker will feature a new kind of horror survival adventure that incorporates emergent gameplay and sandbox elements into the mix. Players will be in total control of their moment-to-moment decisions. Armed with a revolver gun and noisy dynamo flashlight, players will walk the course of an ill-lighted World War I bunker on the shores of a French soldier troubled by his amnesia and hunted by an otherworldly creature.
So, a few things about this, because I am really excited for this.
Yeah.
Because Amnesia Rebirth, it's funny.
Ticks all your boxes, man.
Amnesia Rebirth was... I want to go back to it and I want to write an essay about it
again.
Yeah, because I did a review.
Oh, you did, yeah.
And I didn't think it was that great. I was underwhelmed, but the things that they tried in Amnesia Rebirth were just really cool. So I'm gonna spoil some things about Amnesia Rebirth here. Okay, run and hide horror is difficult to make, right? Because alien isolation. Yeah. First couple times you meet the alien, it's terrifying. You're running away. You're throwing smoke bombs. You're throwing noisemakers. You're trying to get out of the way. And then like the 10th time the alien catches you, it's just annoying because it's like, I just want to get back to progressing through the story. I just want to get some more crafting gear. I don't want to have to get eaten by this alien for an 11th time, right? So there's a balance in run and hide horror that can be difficult because you want the player to be scared and running from a monster, but you need the game to be easy enough that the player doesn't constantly get killed by that monster and get into like a Dark Souls battle because then it just becomes boring, right? Yeah. So what they did with Amnesia Rebirth was they made it where if a monster caught you, there wasn't a fail state. The story in Amnesia Rebirth is you and the people that you're with get inflicted with a curse that turns everybody into monsters. Mm-hmm. So your character does not know this. It's really cool how they introduce it. As you go through the story, once you start encountering monsters, which they did such a great job leading up to, once you start encountering monsters, if a monster catches you in a sequence, in a chase sequence or a run and hide sequence, your character like fights back for a second and blacks out. And then you just see flashes of your character running just through hallways, wherever you are in the game, and then your character wakes back up in a random area in the level, and you don't know where you are, right? So once that happens, you have to find your way out. So what it's doing is instead of you failing, what they wanted to emerge is like your character losing control of their own consciousness. And you see snippets of where they run away to, and then you wake up and you have to find your way and figure out where to go. Right. The problem, it didn't work. It wasn't as smooth as it could have been because what tends to happen is if you get caught 3 or 4 times, the same thing happens. Then it's just, okay, you're waking up over here. You're waking up over there. You're waking up by this door. You're waking up by this hallway. Then it's just silly. Then you're constantly blacking out and waking up. That's not scary.
There's no ultimate consequence for that happening. Yeah.
So they tried to take away that fail state, which was a brilliant idea, but with nothing there, the same exact thing happened. Yeah. Is that same effect happened. So if they can mix those things, I think they've got a golden idea. If they can give those fail states with the terror while providing that emergent losing control of your character, where a monster catching you isn't necessarily the death sentence that it is in other run and hide horrors, I think they could absolutely nail it. And damn it, they are so good with atmosphere and visuals and just some of the creepy settings. It's just they blow me away. So yeah, and then in World War II, in a World War I setting, World War I is terrifying. Mm-hmm. Like, I have been inside a World War I bunker, and it is straight out of a horror movie because it is just concrete, and it's rusted, and it looks like it's a medieval castle. Yeah, it's the same. It's a medieval castle, and on top of some of these bunkers is grass, because so much was blown on top of it that eventually it grew, and it just looks like a weird hill from far away. And there are I've been to one in Verdun a couple, but it's terrifying when you're in there because it's so difficult to walk around. It's everything's like wet and there's like water running from random places. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't like it was any better. And things are so loud because everything echoes. So when if you think about, okay, imagine a cannon firing, imagine guns going off, right? And it's just terrifying. So I think that's a really cool setting for a horror game. Yeah. Because you're not only are you enclosed in a cement tomb, but nothing is comfortable about the setting because it's made to keep things out and you're locked in, and that's terrifying.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited. Sorry, that's all I wanted to say.
It's a very unique setting, and that's probably the biggest thing that I have taken away from this announcement. And I'm not, I played the first Amnesia. I never played Machine for Pigs or
I haven't. That Machine for Pigs was developed by somebody else.
Right, somebody else, right? But but this one, the setting interests me the most because it's one of those settings that we have not seen.
Sure.
Almost ever.
I think there's maybe a couple World War I horror games.
Sure, but I guess the World War I setting is not usually done unless it's some sort of like multiplayer or RTS, you know. Yeah. And so this being able to kind of like explore your way through these areas with a lot of history to them, they can probably produce some really cool things. So we'll have to see.
Yep.
Yuzo Koshiro is making a new game. Yuzo Koshiro is famous for mostly his soundtracks to games, Streets of Rage and Castlevania being some of his most famous works. But over on Twitter, he's revealed that he's working on a new Sega Genesis game. Koshiro posted some images of the game, and he said, quote, "It looks like an old school shoot 'em up, but it is a new game we are developing, harkening back to famous franchises in the 80s. We will release it for the Mega Drive Genesis. I am making the soundtrack, and I've been back also as game director since Beyond Oasis." Koshiro also stated that the soundtrack is also being made on authentic hardware as well.
That's really cool.
It is very cool. It's been happening for a while. It's not a new thing.
Okay.
New thing to your ears, which is cool. Which is cool.
I was like, wait, is this? Okay.
Oh yeah, no. There's still lots of like homebrew games being officially released.
Sure.
Yeah, this is probably the most high profile one. But there have been several. There's a game called Xeno Crisis.
Oh, I have heard of this.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about it, but that name is familiar.
You can get that on Genesis.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you can get that on Genesis.
Freaking awesome. Yeah. Okay, I have not known about this till today.
Yeah, but there's also several other games that are very cool. There's actually some that I've seen today that I look at and I'm like, that's on Genesis? Just because, 20 years later, we know how the system works. We know what we can push to, its potential or even past that. And so yeah, it's a bit exciting. So we'll see what happens.
I'm going to ask you a question.
I'll do my best to answer.
10 Lincecum 12.6. So there are those like old retro consoles that aren't licensed, but you can put like retro games in them and they work.
Sure.
How do those work compared to an actual Sega Genesis? Are they better?
Oh, yeah, like, the ones that you see at like Bed Bath & Beyond and stuff like that.
Or like Zia sells some of them.
Yeah.
I know a lot of them are probably like cheaply manufactured and stuff like that. But I do wonder sometimes, like, how do those compare to an actual Sega Genesis?
So it depends on who makes them. There are companies. We've talked about them before, and I've brought them up plenty of times, but at Games, they have made Genesis consoles that have like preloaded games on them, and you can plug Genesis cartridges into them. They absolutely are awful when it comes to the compatibility.
That's too bad.
However, there are some people that do make very good consoles, like my company. we make Genesis consoles.
Wait, you guys do?
Yeah, we have we have a Genesis console that has an HDMI port on it. You can hook it up to your TV.
I never knew this.
Sorry, you don't come in.
Except
for to return stuff.
Like Silent Hill 2. Yeah. Which I haven't, because I haven't finished it yet.
Well, that's something that like it's seemingly.
Do you know how to make a console?
Well, not me personally.
This is like learning you were a Navy SEAL just now.
I don't make the console. Okay. The company does.
Richard wasn't a Navy SEAL. He was a Green Beret.
Yeah.
Well,
You won hearts and minds through making consoles and video games.
Richard Marcinko was a Marine.
He made video games.
Yeah, he made one.
I'm going to say Richard De La Cruz is the better video game Richard, but anyway.
Yeah, so the owner, more than 5 years ago, mid 2010s, sought out to create a console because a lot of the consoles that were being made at the time did not have full compatibility with a lot of the games, because this is particularly Nintendo's problem. Nintendo was shoving all sorts of chips inside of the games to make them work or to do really cool things. But in order to replicate that to be played on actual hardware, it would get like the programming would get scrambled because nobody was good enough to like reverse engineer it.
Interesting. Okay.
Eventually, people got good, and so he worked on it for years with someone who was kind of a whiz at like doing that stuff. So they figured out how to get actual hardware working with most of the games. I think we got like a 98% compatibility rate. There are some games that still have problems, Battletoads being like one of them. Level 2, like it just freezes in the middle. We don't know why.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Okay.
RC Pro Am 2, which is like a $100 game you'll never play. That doesn't work. There's a couple others. But the way we explain it is the games you want to play will work.
Oh, man. That's so cool.
So we got Genesis, we got SNES, NES. And we got them in handheld versions too. So they have an LCD screen. You can hook them up to your TV and play that. Anyways.
Okay, well, Connor, I'm sorry. You're still Lieutenant Commander, but Richard may have to be Chief Engineer. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I didn't do any of this. I've told you 3 times.
He just walked up to the replicator and said it.
Yeah.
Computer, Sonic.
That's exactly what I did.
Just a bunch of rings fall out.
Or chili dogs. Okay, so this is my last tidbit, which I put this up before I realized you did the news thing, and it ties into the Nintendo news we had earlier, but I'm basically regurgitating some information here. But Nintendo, of course, has shut down Dragalia Lost. The game was critically well received and very well received by its players. It was released in 2018, and since then has had like tons of crossovers with Persona 5, Mega Man, Fire Emblem, and other games where you could get some of those characters in Dragalia Lost. Nintendo said with the closure, quote, "We would like to extend our sincere thanks to everyone who has played the game since service began. If you start up Dragalia Lost after the game service has ended, an end of service notification will be displayed and you will not be able to play the game." Dragalia Lost, I have played myself. It was a very fun game with a very nice storyline, very likable characters. Its gameplay lends itself very well to, I believe, a single player experience. And I think that if they really wanted to, or if they could, Cygames, who was the primary developer, I think could probably release a single player-esque version on the Switch. Because there are a couple mobile games that were like really kind of crappy that have been released on Nintendo Switch that have online capabilities and stuff. You can buy it for like $2 or $5 or whatever. I think that would be a wonderful alternative to just simply erasing this game from existence.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is it.
Man, you learn something just when you think you know a guy. Connor, do you have any secrets?
A lot.
Do you want to share one?
No.
Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Gaming Discourse. Go to our YouTube channel, YouTube/Gaming Discourse, Patreon.com/The Gaming Discourse. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.